Hi. Okay, so I'm going to read, which is, I don't know. It's what I'm doing. So the thing I'm reading was an essay that was published in Bear, which is a journal that was released by Strippers United. And it started out being about one thing and became another, but that was in the midst of publishing. So this is the version about what it became. So let me get it. And I have to pretend that everything is a book. This is how I manifest. Right? So this is an essay called Welcome to the Badlands. In the 1990s, when a new movie or book based in BDSM came out, you could gauge its popularity by the number of lifestyle and professional fetish folks who started complaining about all the posers and baby dominatrixes that were about to hit the scene. This is still the case in the 2020s. Essays are written, posts are reposted, eyes are rolled, and I can't join in because I've been one of those wannabes, like I'm the problem. I started out as a totally vanilla house dancer in Atlanta, Georgia, in strip joints in 1980. After about 10 years, I became a feature dancer, which meant I toured with 15 to 20 minute themed numbers. I had a bride number, although I'd never been a bride. I had an evil nurse number, though I'd never been a nurse, evil or otherwise. And I had a dominatrix number, although I had never been a professional dominatrix. The dominatrix act, though not the most popular with the patrons, was my favorite. I came out in a full leather fetish costume, did whip tricks, had customers cut a fishnet bodysuit off me, ran fire over my body, and blew clouds of flame over their heads. However, I had absolutely no training in handling whips or fire. Remember, YouTube didn't exist, and nobody mentored me. I was a menace. Fortunately, I never bruised a customer's kidney or set a club on fire. That's not the story. Performing this act was an antidote to my rage over the role I'd been playing as the girlfriend of a series of leather-clad rock musicians, most of whom expected me to, among other things, look good, pay the bills, and enjoy a fair degree of neglect and humiliation. They would literally say the phrase, "just a stripper," to me. Not only that, these guys in stripper-inspired makeup, big hair, and high heels were uncomfortable with my bisexuality and terrified that me being queer would make them look like they were queer. They told me this. Their transvestite aesthetics were the main thing that had attracted me to them. Rocky Horror fan that I was, but unlike Frankenfurter, they were not sweet. I was tired of being an interchangeable groupie, and what I had discovered was a misogynistic, whorephobic, and homophobic scene. But I would do it again. When I dressed in my own leather, I was the main event, not the arm candy. I couldn't play guitar or sing, but I was an excellent stripper. And I could embody all the energy that costume evoked. The hug of a corset was glamorous armor. Long leather gloves lined with silk enveloped me in the scent and texture of luxury and power. Glossy thigh-high boots gave me a sense of aesthetic kinship with my childhood fashion heroes, Catwoman and Emma Peel. Platforms and heels literally elevated me. And after touring for years, I decided I didn't want to visit a new strip club every month, because that meant meeting a new strip club manager every month. If you know, you know. I just wanted to live in New York City and try to publish my book about feature dancers, which I never did. I sold the bride costume and the nurse costume, but I kept the dominatrix costume. So I moved here, and I joined my friend Judith, a philosophy professor at Fordham University and a professional escort, and fucking pay teachers more, people, in her West Village apartment on Christopher Street and Waverly Place. We lived in her oddly shaped, rent-controlled walk-up. The kitchen sink was the only sink, and the bathtub right next to it was covered by a board that served as the only counter space. Every day we had to move the heavy board to take our baths. While one soaked, the other would hold her cigarettes and bring her cocktails. Our beatnik lair was on the same block where the Gay Pride Parade paused every year to honor the days in 1969 when the gay, lesbian, and gender-bending folks stood up for themselves at Stonewall Inn, writing against violent police who were enforcing homophobic laws. The streets were now populated, well, in the 90s, populated daily by drag queens, leather men, trans folks, and sex workers who were openly and proudly themselves, not just in nightclubs or at special events, but at broad daylight. For two queer sex-working girls hailing from a much more conservative city, it felt like liberation just to walk out the front door. I thrived in the glow of being surrounded by so many people who openly shared my sensibilities. I was home. The neighborhood was teeming with sex emporia, leather BDSM shops, and latex clothing boutiques. The windows showcased unique gear, fashion, and magazines that served the special interests of their customer base. I had thought of fetish as just an aesthetic. As it turned out, there's no such thing as just an aesthetic. Among the magazines, I discovered Domination Directory International, subtitled The Ultimate Source for Meeting a Mistress. The publication lived up to its name with glossy page after glossy page of advertisements for dominatrices. Mostly women, but all genders were present, from all over the world. I pored over them for hours. This is my porn. The images of boots and bodysuits and fishnets, illustrating fantasies that were as much mine as those of the clientele I wanted to reach. I was possibly more attracted to playing that role than they were to having me play it. I met a few submissive fellas in AOL chat rooms who were more than willing to be my guinea pigs. And Christopher Street, remember, I found out that my downstairs neighbor had installed his own dungeon where he suspended bondage contraptions from the ceiling of his studio apartment when working as a fetish escort. And before long, he invited me to join him with a few of his clients. And my new wardrobe started to earn its keep. I was no longer only trying to attract these men, nor refraining from attracting them. Above all, I was attracted to myself. I masturbated so much I can't tell you. The debut of the documentary Fetishes on HBO, has anybody seen this? Okay. Ignited the next phase of my professional life. Fetishes followed several dominatrices and their clients through what was purported to be a depiction, an accurate depiction, of their daily work lives in a luxurious and notorious dungeon called Pandora's Box, about which I won't say too much because it's still there and they're litigious. Which I'd seen advertised in many of the magazines I'd been obsessing over. Some of their ads offered rental space to professionals, and having been tantalized by the fabulous interiors and the walls of exquisite BDSM equipment portrayed in the documentary, I decided to see it on purpose, thinking I might rent there. The manager gave me a bemused look, evaluating me and possibly sensing my inexperience as a full-time dominatrix. "You look good," she said, "and these pictures, which were outtakes from my centerfolds, are gorgeous, but you'll need some real mistress pictures." I started dating the photographer, and she was so fucking hot. During orientation, she gave me a tour of the various theme rooms, expensive stage sets for erotic scenarios, all lavishly decorated and filled with the kind of high-end custom bondage gear I'd pined after in shops and magazines. She showed me where the lube, condoms, and puppy pads were stored behind velvet curtains. I swooned at the thought of finally getting my hands on all the finely crafted items I couldn't afford on my own, even though I didn't know how to use half of them. I should note here that I never received any training in them either. The Versailles room, which featured a velvet upholstered spanking horse, gold walls, and finely tooled gold leather restraints, took my breath away. But my favorite was the throne room. There I could and did sit in a huge silver chair with a switch in the armrest that controlled a suspension rig to raise and lower clients at my pleasure. Now, contrary to the mythology about dominatrices all having to serve apprenticeships to experienced professionals, nobody mentored me. It was sink or swim, and I had to mentor myself. During my first week, I spent all my downtime exploring the equipment. I studied all the books, and I went to all the meetups. I threw myself into my now full-time pursuit, showing up in full fetish drag to the amusement of more seasoned coworkers who have waited in sweats or sundresses until clients arrived. I was there every day for all shifts, trying to build my skills and confidence quickly. I worked under the name Mistress Dakota, a reference to the region where my family is centered, and it allowed me to use the tagline, "Welcome to the Badlands." You think burlesque performers have hot taglines? Pick up a cock, we have DDI. Within just a few years, I became an authoritative and notorious dominatrix, appearing in fetish porn, helping to publish a fetish magazine, and speaking at academic conferences about the ethics and power dynamics of being a BDSM professional. Would you like to see the magazine?
Yes!
Okay, so like I said, I started dating the photographer, and then Judith went on a trip, and Kate moved in, and Kate was the editor, and Misa was the photographer, and I was the writer, and we ran this whole fucking magazine out of the offices of Pandora's Box, and we put ourselves on the cover. And we put ourselves, oh, there's so much going, oh yeah, I'm in here a lot. I'm in here a lot. Yeah, it's a little raggedy and waterlogged, but yeah. At one point, there's an interview in here with me, and it says, if you had a TV show, what would it be called? And I said, Dick Van Dyke. So that's the magazine I helped write and publish. And I met a lot of people that way. A lot. Within just a few, okay, I already said that. Pretending to be a dominatrix was my gateway to becoming one, and to discover that I'd been cosplaying an authentic part of myself. Dressing for the job I didn't even know I wanted led to a decades-long career that fed my psyche and my sexuality. I think about this every time I have the impulse to roll my eyes at the cosplayers and the newbies. I was a civilian. I was a wannabe. But then who wasn't originally? Or was it just me? I don't know.